where home sales declined was in 2005, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, the difference between this right here and in all the other recessions is this recession was caused by real estate. These recessions were not caused by real estate, and what we're about to go into was not caused by real estate. So to me, how I look at that from my business's standpoint is we have to keep the business going because this is the one thing that's going to bring us out, as it has done so many other times. Does that make sense? Thumbs up if it, yeah. So again, let's kind of dive a little bit deeper of home values. What happened to home values? Exact same thing. Through all these recessions, again, in the early 90s, we had one again, 2000. All home values continued to go up with the one exception, the year where real estate caused it, right? So we've got an episodic one happening now because of the virus. Real estate didn't cause that. So real estate's going to continue to grow during it. It's just going to change what it looks like from our standpoint. The one that's really important to us for our business is this slide right here. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's all about, again, I'm not talking about the real estate market. I'm not talking about our clients. I'm talking about you and me as business owners. How does this affect our business? And as you'll see, and this goes back into the 70s, anytime there was a recession that we had, the sides per agent went down and then immediately shot up afterwards, right? Early 90s, recession, sides per agent went down and then shot up afterwards, right? Same thing happened even in the recession in 2008 and 9. Sides went down and then shot up afterwards. Really quickly, chime in. What do you think causes that? Why do you think that trend happens?
The law of equilibrium.
What does that mean?
So, and I'm in. If you haven't read this book,
right,
please go read it.
Right.
Right. And
this one.
Right. It is right now. It couldn't be more timely to go back, refresh on what a shift means. A shift does not have to be a negative thing. Just like Joseph mentioned, real estate actually is, there's always a pause, right? In a time like this, there's going to be a pause and a reassess of what's going on. Yet real estate has usually been the thing, except in 2008, that's pulled the economy out of recessions.
Right.
And when I say the law of equilibrium, what I'm talking about is this sides per agent, right? Real estate has a very low barrier to entry. And when sides in real estate is growing, people get into the business as agents, right? Which then decreases the amount of it decreases the amount of sides per agent or transactions per agent. However, as like over the last 5 years, things have been going up and sides have continued to increase. But now that we've hit a pause, and you can see it on 2019, we hit a pause, right? But the amount of agents continued to grow, which then decreased the amount of sides per agent. Right. And there's a lag between now as sides continue to decrease as we pause and as things get a little uncertain here over the short term. Yeah. There's still a lot of agents in the business that are competing for those decreased sides. Right. So per agent income decreases.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. When I teach the lead generation class, one of the things that we talk about in the beginning is I always ask this question, and I'll pose it to this group: is right now, is it easier or harder to build a real estate business? Let's rewind. Let's go back to the end of February. If I were teaching this class, I would ask the question: right now, is it easier or is it harder to build a real estate business? And across the board, Vince, what do you think the answer is?
Harder.
You'd think, right? I mean, you and I know that, but what happens is everyone's like, well, it's easier. I mean, the real estate market's good and everything's happening. The problem is oh yeah, at the end of February, it was harder. And right here shows it. There's only 7.6 sides per agent available in 2019, right? The cause of that is exactly what you just said. We have more agents in the business than we've ever had before. Here's what ironic, 1982, right? What was 1982 was when the Fed raised the interest rates, right? Caused a recession at that point in time. When that happened, it was probably the hardest time to be in business. And then that recession caused easier times. In the next 5 years, look how many, 10 sides per agent were available, right? So there's opportunity in this. Now, and again, I'm just talking about us as our business right now. Same thing, 1990, savings and loans crisis. Right now, the lowest sides per agent available. And after that happened, the recession that was caused, look at that, sides jumped up. Same thing happened, 2008, sides per agent was the lowest it could be. Afterwards, it jumped back up to 10. So the good news is this is why we talk about, like when Gary said the other day, we've got to survive during this so we can thrive afterwards. It's a survival right now, which is everything that we're working on aside from that, to then thrive afterwards, because the sides per agent is going to go up. And we won't see that on the books. Like, we're not going to see an exodus of agents over the next 3 months, because when does the exodus of agents typically occur?
Over a year.
Over a year. And at the end of the year, when the association dues are due, license renewal, or MLS fees, right? So we won't see it until the end of this year. However, we will feel it, because agents are, for those of you who weren't on the call this morning, Michael Prince shared that he's talked to a handful of agents that think this is a vacation. I mean, that was their mentality. This is going to blow over. It's a vacation. Those are the ones that are most at risk right now. So we just got to keep looking at that sides per agent issue and know that we are in a good time right now, because we're still on the higher side of any time that we've been before. But then we have the ability to then grow and move forward from that. Does that make sense?
100%. And so let me ask you this, Joseph, when you look at this and then you get an idea as to where we are in our market and understand that it's run pretty good. I mean, it definitely slowed down a little, and you could feel it and you could see it in the numbers in 2019. Obviously, you can see it in the national numbers too. We were still up in Charleston in 2019. Right. However, it wasn't as up as it was in 2017 or 2018, right? So when you look at these numbers and then you look at the last 2 weeks, what are you doing in your business, and how are you not necessarily taking advantage of this time, but how are you minimizing the disruption in your personal real estate business during this time?
Yeah.
Well, also taking all of this into consideration.
Yeah. So I go back, I pulled the slide back up because I wanted to show this, because what's interesting is, I want to go to one thing you said and then I'll answer your question. So when I was in Florida in 2005 and 2006 as a team leader, right? 2005, people were like bathing in money at the closing table, right? I mean, you put a house under contract in July 1st, and when you closed in July 30th, you would appreciate it another 3 or 4%. Like, it was ridiculous. And then in 2006, the opposite was happening. People were running to get to save money, to whatever they can. And we were in trouble. Then I moved back to Charleston and started as a team leader in 2007. And everyone in Charleston was like, well, it's not going to happen here. Right. Yeah, that's the rest of the world. Honestly, the Carolinas region was the last region in Keller Williams to see any sort of shift. Like, statistically, that's what it looked like. And so we had these conversations and we started doing exactly what we're doing right now. And luckily, some people listened, and those people are still in the business. Right. And this isn't to be doom and gloom. It wasn't panicking. So it happens gradually, and then suddenly. This one happened suddenly, and then suddenly. Right? This one kind of happened overnight. So I think, to your question, what are we doing? Again, we're practicing what we're preaching, right? So for us personally, like Lynn and I, well, what we did with the Market Center, we started with the expense control, right? Stop the, if you look at the triage example from Mike Bashan, the first thing is to stop the bleeding. I mean, we've gone through and we're looking at everything we could from the Market Center. We're doing the same thing personally. The next part we're doing is, right now, we're just staying in touch. You draw the timeline over time. If you say, this may or may not go well, we'll see. So if you draw a timeline of 1 year, let me get a blank piece of paper. You have 1 year right here. In that year, how many times do you think someone's going to talk to someone that buying or selling real estate, that they're going to talk to someone that's buying or selling real estate that they can refer you to? How many times do you think that'll happen?
In 1 year?
Yeah, in 1 year. Like, a substantial conversation, not just people they talk to in general, but like they run into someone says, yeah, I'm putting my house on the market, and they're able to refer to me.
Once, twice? Not
yeah.
much.
Yeah, I would say right now once or twice would be conservative, right? Let's say it's more. So I'm going to draw 2 big lines. Those are the 1 or 2 times over that year that's going to happen. Our job over this year is to be in touch with them enough times so when that happens, it's within a close enough period of time that they remember us.
Absolutely.
It doesn't change now. It's only going to be maybe once or twice now versus 3 to 5 times. So right now, we're going to make sure that we are staying in touch with the people. And right now, we don't know what that conversation looks like. Michael asked this morning, what do the conversations change between now and then? I don't know. until I have that conversation with them. So that's the big thing on insulating the business, is making sure when people do come across that, or they become the person, is to stay in touch with them. And then, deliver the message, deliver the message to them. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, because I agree with you. I don't know. We've talked a lot on the daily Zooms, on other trainings that we've had at the team meeting. We've talked a lot about what do these conversations actually look like, and I think I agree with you. I think brand saturation, as they put it in the MREA book, right?
Mhm.
Brand saturation, and those that coach and consult with me, you've heard me use this term at length, but it's very important, and it goes right to that point. When they're ready to buy, who are they going to think of? Or when they're ready to refer, who are they going to think of?
Right.
Well, if you called them just to let them know you were thinking of them during these crazy times, and to say hello and see how you're doing, and not put your sales hat on, be a human,
Right.
right? Like, be a person. Understand that people. So I read in Inman today. It was either today or yesterday. And if you're not reading Inman, it's been pretty good. Like, Inman has had some interesting articles about what's going on, and I'll get into why reading Inman would make sense because of the last C here. But there are 3 C's of a crisis communication, right? 3 C's of crisis communication. The first is compassion, right? You have to meet somebody where they are. You have to understand, and almost validate, hey, like, I get you. And I appreciate where you are, right, Joseph? Like, having these conversations was kind of that's what we wanted to do, because we agree. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then number 2, though, is confidence. Understanding that this too will pass, right? There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just a matter of how far is that light away, but
Right.
nobody has a crystal ball. So all we can do is live in the moment and continue to push forward and have confidence that it's all going to be okay, even though right now it might not feel that way.
Right.
And then number 3 was competency. And I think that goes to what you're saying, competency.
Mm-hmm.
Competency goes to exactly what you're saying, Joseph, and know what you're talking about, right? Be educated.
Right.
Go read what's going on. Get information. That's a lot. There's a lot of information out there right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's another reason that we wanted to do this, Joseph, is so that we could kind of articulate and analyze what information is out there and how do we see it and how can we use it, and what might be wrong and what might be right. Just having those conversations is important. And Inman has done a really good job at articulating to us what's going on in the real estate market, and allowing us to then analyze that for our people and help them make decisions. Because if we go back to what is a real estate agent, well, we provide knowledge, advice, and service, right?
Right.
And if we're not doing our research and understanding what's going on in this time, how can we give advice and how can we be that person for knowledge? And then if we're not calling them and just checking in on them, how can we do any of those when they want us to?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's the big thing there for me, is when I take all of this in, I take it in, and the way that I act on it is simply having more conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think correct. And again, it's the same thing. I mean, to be transparent with everyone, we as a leadership team has kind of struggled late, because even we're doing the exact same thing as a leadership team as the agents are doing with their database, yet our database is our agents, right? And let's be honest, every agent has a different way. Like, I love how you said, meet them where they are. We have some agents, a lot of you that are on here, you're taking the bull by the horns and you're saying, we're charging through this. Not everyone's reacting that way, right? So how are we reaching out to them? Because people are, they're dealing with different things, right? And they're dealing with it differently. So we've got to make sure this is why we've upped the communication so much, is to make sure that we're doing that and checking in with you guys, checking in with everyone that's out there. Mirror that with your database, right? It goes back to Stella, Stella's example that, she talked about the listing, but she also talked about how right now she's just focusing on making sure she's reaching out to people and letting them know that she is a resource for them in anything, not just the real estate standpoint, but in local businesses and things that she need. And she's doing a great job with it, right? A lot of you are. I'm just naming, giving her.
Yeah. And because that's the other thing, is people are looking for value right now, and getting people on the phone has never been easier. And with all due respect, I mean, people are home, and people people, we're humans, we're social beings. We
Right.
want to talk, we want to be in connection with people. It's part of how we create moments, right?
Right.
Connection. However, we don't have that ability. I mean, we're just with our families and our loved ones and kind of cooped up. Yet technology has given us the ability to still create connections with people. What percentage of real estate agents do we believe are actually doing that? Especially understanding that we're competing for less sides in the market. I would say majority of people aren't doing that. Majority
No.
of people are not going out and just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Right?
Right.
And I think that's really, really important. Be a person right now, and be just a. Inman is a. For those that don't know, Inman is a platform or a medium uh, of information about real estate.
Yeah.
Brad Inman, and it's basically a publication, all devoted to what's going on in real estate.
Yep.
And it's funny, Brad Inman and Gary Keller, I think sometimes they don't necessarily see eye to eye.
It's a good
Yet,
way to put it.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
been some good interviews with the two of them.
Yeah.
But it's been a really good place. I read it every day. It's really relevant information about what's going on in the real estate market across the nation.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I think, I mean, I think going back to that, our goal on these is to kind of help decipher that information as much as possible. So, again, for those of you that are fearful about reaching out to your database or anything like that, just call and check in. Everyone is doing it right now. As far like not real estate agents, but people, the public is doing that. They want to hear from different people. We talked about this in our leadership team meeting this morning. Is like people are thirsty for just regular phone calls right now. They've been on Zoom all the time, right? They're doing all these, like, just make the phone call and have it be someone different. So anything else that you want to add? I know we wanted to keep it a little shorter today.
Yeah.
Um,
And I wanted to add one more thing. I know that some of the things that we had talked about and the leadership team, and I've been having a lot of conversations with people. I want to go back to like training, right? There's a concept in the MREA, learn before you earn, right? And we have made a decision as a leadership group to put a ton of training on. We doubled down on training. Just like we talk about doubling down on lead generation during a shift, we doubled down on training and resources so that if you have an issue or when you want to learn something to really move your business forward, it's there for you.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean you have to get into everything, because sometimes when we throw a bunch of options out there, it can create a state of kind of overwhelm and what do I pick? What do I go to? If you're in that space, call me, call Joseph, call Tiffany, call Kristen, call Adrian, call somebody on the leadership team and ask, and we'll have a conversation with you about where you are in your business and then what we could then suggest that you go to. If you want to be on everything, great, be on everything, and then also make sure you're doing your 20% in talking to your people. Yet we want to have these here so that people can learn and keep moving things forward. So if you need help in that department, just call us. But we are going to continue to double down on Zooms and communication and training, because I think that's really, really important during times like this. Would you say anything else to that, Joseph?
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It's not going to change either, right? We are not letting up on the pedal on this one because, right now our time needs to be focused on continuing to build our relationships and continuing to educate ourselves on what those conversations look like, right? That education has always been in the 20%, but it's even more so now because it's changing so quickly. But I so appreciate with what you're saying, because you can't go to it all. It's a buffet. If you go to it all, you're just going to get fat and tired, right? So you've got to go to what's relevant to you. And if you have the time and you're the sponge state right now, then go to as much as you want. And obviously we're going to summarize what we can and things like this in the team meeting, which are the ones that we do want everyone to be attending. But the other ones we're just doing across the board, everything that there is. And I love the fact that we've even added it to the daily check-in calls. If you haven't been coming to those, I mean, our ALC has crushed it as far as sharing just certain things on there from a different perspective, which I'm super, super excited about.
And because that was another thing, we were never going to lose that collaboration piece, right? Our vision is to create an environment built on productivity and collaboration so people can leave a legacy and build a business of their choosing, right? And we aren't going to get away from that. And this was our way of adapting to what's going on. And we're not going to change. So the big things are going to be the team meetings, the daily Zooms, if you want to dial into them as a little motivation in the morning to get your mind right. And then these state of the company are really just going to be like this. So
yeah.
I just want to hold hands, John.
Well, and the other thing is too, is gosh, please, like even now, like give yourself permission to just go disconnect, like go get out of the house. Like, Greg brought this up. Flanagan kind of led the discussion on this, the end of last week or whenever it was. Just like this, I feel like we are more focused and more like intense right now in the times we are working than we've probably ever been before. I'll be honest with you, we're getting on the water after this. Like this afternoon, we've got some things to do, but we're disconnect this weekend. Like you've got to control your sanity a little bit. That's the unknown right now that we haven't dealt with before, is this isolation that we have. So be able to go out, get some fresh air, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to close up, does anybody have any questions? I haven't really totally looked at that chat. I think it was an overwhelming yes, keep the noon, right, T? So we're going to keep the noon. And again, we're going to come to you and ask, because we don't want to overwhelm. Like we said, we want to have things for everybody to go to, but we don't want to overwhelm. So we're going to keep those. Anything else?
Tiffany, did you see anything that we need to make sure we covered?
Yeah, Tiffany.
No, I think we hit everything.
Perfect. And we will, John Joe, you look like you're about to say something.
So can we all just unmute and sing happy birthday to Winnie?
Yes.
Oh, I think that would be a great idea.
That would be amazing.
Go on here. Where is she? Oh, there she is.
Winnie, is it your birthday? Are you lying? All for shame.
So her birthday is tomorrow. So, and she's a social person and loves birthdays. And so let's all unmute. Ready? Unmuting everyone. I'm doing it myself.
Died from lung cancer.
Yeah.
From smoking.
Oh,
So,
mute Krista.
Mute Krista. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Winnie. Happy birthday to you.
That was amazing.
that was so on tune and on time. I appreciate
I
it.
know.
We are a talented bunch here.
Happy birthday, Winnie.
Happy birthday. All right, guys. If you need anything, please reach out to us. Vince, thank you so much. Tiffany, thank you. And everyone, have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.